Hi, my name is Mei, and this is my recipe for Plum Hoisin BBQ flank steak. We're gonna be using Lee Kum Kee hoisin sauce, Panda brand premium cooking soy sauce, and Lee Kum Kee minced garlic. We're gonna start by adding our plums, and you can use a variety of different plums for this. And we're gonna add some sugar, some Shaoxing wine. If you don't have Shaoxing wine, you can really use something similar to the flavor, like a sherry cooking wine. We have some orange juice, we have some dry mustard, some chili flake, minced ginger, some scallion, some of the Lee Kum Kee minced garlic. We're gonna add some of the Lee Kum Kee hoisin sauce. Next, the Panda brand premium cooking soy sauce by Lee Kum Kee. We're gonna blend this up into a nice puree, and we're gonna get the meat marinating. Now that we've blended this marinade into a smooth puree, we're gonna marinate the flank steak that we have. I really like using flank steak for this type of marinade because it really just breaks down the meat and tenderizes it. But of course you can use whatever cut you like. Skirt steak is great for this. Something a little bit tougher cut would actually work. So we're gonna add some of this marinade into the bag. And we're gonna let it marinate for about 4 hours. And for the rest of the marinade, we're actually gonna add into a separate pot to let it reduce down into a glaze where we can brush it on the steak afterwards. So I have a little saucepan here. We're gonna add the marinade into the pan and let it reduce down into a glaze. So after the steak has marinated for about at least 4 hours, you wanna let it rest at room temperature for at least about an hour. You can massage a lot of the marinade into the meat if you'd like. It really helps penetrate that liquid into the meat. And really, a lot of these different sauces have a high amount of sodium, so it really does help season the protein that you are using. So we want the cast iron pan to be at a medium-high heat, and you wanna let the pan heat up before you add a little bit of cooking oil to that. This recipe is really reminiscent of the different types of Chinese barbecue that I grew up eating. Lee Kum Kee hoisin sauce being the star in this dish, and really adding a lot of different sweet and savory notes into the marinade. So we're gonna check on our glaze to make sure that it's reducing nicely. Just gotta give it a quick whisk to make sure everything is homogeneous. Once our pan is heated up, we're gonna add a little bit of cooking oil. I like to use a neutral cooking oil. You don't wanna add something like an olive oil that does have a lot of flavor. I typically like to use something like peanut oil, grapeseed oil, even canola oil. So we're gonna get this pan pretty nice and smoking hot because you really want those grill marks on the steak. So you see the pan smoking a little bit, that's when you really know that the pan is ready. So now that the pan is nice and smoking hot, you're gonna add in their steak. So right away I can smell the flavors of the hoisin sauce. Smell the sugars caramelizing on the bottom of the pan. I like to cook the steak for about 3 minutes on each side and then just kind of finish it in the oven for another 5 minutes. So our marinade has reduced down by half, and we're gonna pull this off of the flame. We have this nice grill marks here, and we're just gonna let this steak cook for another 3 to 5 minutes on the other side. So I like to give it a little poke with my finger and make sure it's not too firm. The more firm it is, the more cooked it is. I like to keep it at a medium rare. So I'm gonna actually finish the cooking in the oven at 500 degrees. The steak has been cooking for about 5 minutes. I'm gonna pull it out of the oven. Nice and caramelized, just what we want. I'm gonna transfer the steak onto my resting plate, and we're just gonna let this rest for about 10 minutes before we start slicing. I'm just gonna take a brush and brush some of that extra marinade on the steak, just to give it a little bit of flavor and really impart that sweetness that you would get from the Lee Kum Kee hoisin sauce. So we're gonna go ahead and slice the steak against the grain. You can really slice the steak to your desired thickness. We have the steak nicely cooked at a medium rare. It's exactly where I wanted it. So I just kind of like to go in between the slices and season the meat. So we're gonna make this nice and pretty. And we're gonna fan the meat out and you wanna show off that nicely cooked meat, that nice pink on the inside. I'm just gonna sauce the plate with a little bit more marinade. And we're just gonna adjust it up with a little bit more plums, a little bit more scallion. There we have it. I'm gonna take a little bite of the steak and make sure everything is seasoned. This is really, really good. I really killed this recipe. You can find this recipe and more at lkk.com. Thank you for joining and see you next time.